Okay, I think this is video blog number 3. I didn't have time to do it on Friday, so we're at Monday right now. But yeah, just recapping on what happened last week. So I've been away in Portugal for Dan's wedding, and so I've gotten out of the flow of the project just after a period where I was really into it, which felt kind of just jarring, basically. I was thinking about the project a lot while I was away. I read Epitaph for the Ash, which is a book by an author I can't remember, which was good. Not super dense on info, but just, a nice read. And then I came back from Dan's wedding on Monday, and then on Tuesday I went to Kew to go and meet Dario, who was the plant geneticist, genomics expert, who's working on the team to try and find a genetic variant of ash, or Fraxinus excelsior, which is common ash, European ash, that is resistant to ash dieback. And that was a brilliant day out. Layla came with me. It was really cool to get her engaged in the project, and she seemed like she really wanted to be, which was really nice for me. She also has a really, really fucking brilliant questions to Dario. And yeah, so it was kind of surprising to see, I think I knew more about the state of ash dieback at the moment in the UK than Dario did, or the tree perspective of it. And because he was so zoomed in on the sort of genomics, genetics side of things, and that was really interesting to see that maybe scientists and woodland management people can actually really help each other get somewhere a bit quicker. He works directly with the Forestry Commission, so he spent the first 2 months of his project basically gathering samples, so going to ash trees around the UK, rating them, or actually it was just around London, which seems not ideal, and rating their health out of 5, and taking samples of the leaves by either going up on a ladder or with a pruning shears on a stick that only went up to 8 metres, or they had some sort of slingshot catapult thing that went up and went up with a weight on the end to basically pull the leaves off. And then you collect them. I'm just gonna grab my sketchbook so I can actually remember what he said properly. Yeah, so then he'll come back to the lab, which is just sort of the phase that he was just entering now, and sort of grind them up, and then sequence the DNA, which basically means your DNA is made up of 4 bases, I think, which is I can't remember what they're called, and they'll be arranged in a certain way, and the genetic variant will be oh, in this way it's A, B, C, D, and in this way it's C, D, A, B. And so they basically have to take loads of short range and some long range readings, or long reads and short reads they call them, and then they have to overlap them like this to get an image of what this actually looks like. And say that this is one strain of DNA, this would be one chromosome in the ash tree, and he says he thinks ash has 14 chromosomes, but was almost a bit embarrassed that he couldn't remember on the spot. And so you need to get a full reading of all of those 14 chromosomes before you can get the entire genetic picture of the tree. Other interesting things that he was saying was, so from seed to seed, so if they took a sample from a healthy ash tree and then grew it because they thought that it was a healthy genetic variant or a resistant genetic variant, it would take 15 to 18 years for it to seed again. And so that sort of means that, say if they got it slightly wrong, or they're running tests, it would be sort of a really long period of time before they could propagate from that tree again, 15 to 18 years. And if they got it wrong, obviously it's sort of back to square one in a way. And that was quite a sort of difficult thing to hear, because you think that, I don't know, you'd hope that the turnover was much quicker, but I guess, in the life cycle of a tree, that is not a lot of time. And they just take a long time to do these things. And often, he said, to produce the plant that you actually want, so to find that exact genetic variant and to make sure that it is resistant, you have to wait multiple generations, and so that could be like 60 years maybe, or 45 years, which is kind of a scary thing. Yeah. He also talked a lot about gene-environment interaction, which is basically the combination between the genetic variant might only make it a resistant ash tree if there is the pH soil of this, or if it is planted next to an oak tree, or if this gets lots of sun or doesn't get a lot of sun, or gets a lot of water, doesn't get a lot of water. And that can make finding a specific genetic variant incredibly difficult, because it means, I've got written here, one mutation may have resistance in certain environment but not the other. And obviously you think, you can take readings of your area, but there could be just, minutiae in the environment that affect its resistance or lack thereof. Yeah, so his project is in 3 stages, so collection, sequencing and analysis. And so he is at the moment in the sequencing phase. And then once he's finished sequencing, he will go into the analysis phase. He says he seems confident that there will be a resistant strain of ash, and that they will be able to identify it, which means that they will be able to seed it and harvest it. But I think he said that what we're likely to see is basically just a massive reduction in the population of ash trees in the UK, which is really sad. And I think that really goes back to that quote that Mike told me at Plashet Wood, which has really stuck with me, of like, you have to drink this all in. You have to drink in the ash before it goes completely. And I think that has become a real part of my project, and something that gives my work a lot of meaning to me. Because there's this... Anyway, moving on, it kind of related. Yeah, we'll come back to that thought. So then on Wednesday, I was just coming into the workshop, hadn't been in the workshop for like 2.5 weeks, and so just basically did a tidy up and a massive sharpen of everything that I had. And so that take all day Wednesday, and then Thursday I had my last ever therapy session, with Tim in this bout, after 3.5 years, which is so crazy. And it was very emotional, and it's been quite a weird adjustment period, knowing that all these thoughts that come into your head during the week, you've just got to deal with them yourself now. And if you don't deal with them, there's going to be no one to talk to on a Thursday about dealing with them, which is kind of scary. But I think I spoke to Andy, who'd also just finished therapy a couple of weeks ago, and he said it actually makes you much better at putting into practice the things that you've got to do, as opposed to just relying on the fact that you've got a therapist to chat to on the Thursday. And so I've been trying to be sort of more communicative, more direct, more open. But yeah, Anyway, I digress, but it was sort of a massive part of that week. And then I got my tattoo of my ash leaf, or my ash frond of leaves, which I'm really happy with. Then I came back and ate 5 donuts because I was whacked out, and finished that sharpening, and so that was Thursday. And then on Friday, was like, I need to crack on with some making just to get myself back into that headspace of where I was before I left for Portugal, which was super productive, super experimental, developing loads of ideas. All across like different themes, felt like I was really finding a good thing. And I started to split some of those big ash logs with my new fro that broke instantly. So this is a cleaved or a split long piece, and then I've planed the 2 sides flat, and then they've obviously got dirty, but I'll plane them back clean. But the texture on this is just unbelievably lovely. And then I took this one as well, because what I wanted to do was I wanted to create a piece that had 2 sides cleaved and 2 sides square, as sort of a reference to going back to the thought earlier, sort of a reference to this idea that ash dieback causes blackening in leaf and stem, hence the black, and B, this idea that, what am I trying to say? That so much of ash is being felled to go to firewood, and once all the ash trees have been chopped down, or vast majority of them have been chopped down or dead, and we've used all of that timber that was stored, because there's like such a glut in the market that it all just goes to firewood, which, you know, is fine for some of it, because ash is one of the best woods to burn. But if we then burn all of the timber that we've chopped down and there's none left in the woods, then there's just nothing left to remember it by, and that has been quite a poignant thing that's stuck in my head. And that is the thing that I feel like has given real meaning to my project, and like people seem to really get it when I tell them that. It's like I'm not trying to save the ash trees necessarily. I'm just trying to make sure that we have something to remember them by. I think maybe that idea of remembrance and what gets left behind after things or people die is a really important sort of conceptual strand that I would like to stay connected to. And so yeah, I want to clean this up, this one here, and so the other 2 sides are square, and I want to get going on my piece, like the small piece with the black hole in the middle of it, but I want to, with this stump just behind it, I chose it, it's fucking heavy. I chose it because it's got a couple of branches coming out of it, or a couple of knots. Some branches would have one day come out of it. And so I kind of want to get this like totemic square thing going. So plane it into a square or a couple of flat faces where the branches are. And then route out those black holes over the thing as sort of, this is the entrance of where the ash dieback has entered into the tree. So yeah, that's sort of where I am with the work that I've done and what I'm looking to do this week. I also went to Charleston at the weekend, the new Charleston and Lewis gallery, and that was really interesting because there were 2 really separate exhibitions. I've written about this a bit in my sketchbook, but it really made it clear to me what sort of work I want to create, or what sort of exhibition space I might want to create if I ever did want to do an exhibition. But there were 2, this one exhibition, the Jonathan Baldock exhibition, was quite crafty, you know, there was some quite nicely made things in there, visually really lovely, kind of playful. and there was barely any information about any of the art on the walls, and you could just go around and really enjoy it for what it was. The exhibition downstairs, Bring No Clothes, was like a fashion exhibition with some old Bloomsbury Group fashion and paintings, and some new fashion based off of the Bloomsbury Group. And that you just had to do so much reading to feel like you've gotten something from the piece, which is great. I love reading and finding out more about the piece, but to be honest, I think I would prefer my work to sit in that other exhibition where you don't have to read loads about the piece to feel like you've gotten something from it, but that sorry, someone's just come around in the hallway and I got distracted. But that if you do want to read about the piece, there is stuff behind it and there is the information there, but it's not like you have to read it to understand or to enjoy the piece. So your aims for this week. Go back into some of my initial research. What is Ash dieback? How does it spread? Symptoms, blah, 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 blah. And get some more inspiration in terms of things I can do to play with stuff. That would be cool to do in my off time, like evenings and stuff like that. Photograph all the books I've read, scan in all the books I've read, the important bits. Think about what they could mean visually or how they could be interpreted visually, and crack on with these sculptures. Try and get a bit of momentum back in the workshop, like I'm getting somewhere with making stuff. I know it's still really early on, but I suddenly feel this pressure that I'm not doing enough, basically. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there because it's like 17 minutes in, but fingers crossed on Friday, or actually it was on Thursday this week, that I will have some stuff to show. Nice one.